My name is Helen Antoniou. I am an executive coach. I work with professionals who are progressing to different stages of their business, and I also work with families, particularly families that are going through transfers of their business from one generation to the next. I trained in Montreal as a corporate lawyer. I worked as a corporate lawyer, and then I became a management consultant. I worked at Bombardier for a number of years, and that's my background. So I do consider myself an anglophone because in my family unit we speak a lot of English, but I actually think of myself in multiple dimensions because I grew up, my first language was Greek. My parents are both immigrated from Greece to Canada in 1963. I grew up speaking Greek. My first school, I was educated in French, and then I went to English school when I was for high school. And I don't think of them as mutually exclusive. I think of them more as a different riches that I was able to acquire. It's interesting because the first thing people would say is maybe make sure you learn French. Mm-hmm. So yes, language is one thing. Learn the French language, but I would encourage them to go beyond. Be curious about the French culture. Be curious about the French songwriters. Be curious about their story, the history, the playwrights, the authors, the artists. Just be curious about beyond language. It's just so much food for their own growth and development. So the book is this is one of my things that I did. Is called Back to Beer and Hockey: The Story of Eric Molson. It was published last year. And
McGill Queen's Press.
McGill Queen's University Press, that's right. And it was an amazing adventure. Right. And the more I interviewed him, the more I recorded his thinking and his story, the more I became curious again. And then I started interviewing other people in his surrounding. He does it for something beyond himself. And so I always wanted to see, like, how did you do it? How did you deal with big egos? How did you deal with like CEOs who were always, thinking of their own interests as opposed to what was good for the company? How did you handle that? I had to overcome incredible self-doubt about whether I could write a book, especially because it was about my father-in-law, and would I put it, I didn't want to put him to shame in any way or not live up to what he deserved. And so I had a lot of pressure, but at one point, you got to do it. So you got to put that aside and set some time every day and just sit down during that block of time and write. It's as simple as that. I went to law school from Cégep, and at the time when I did it, it was rare that they would take people straight from Cégep into McGill. We were, I think, around 8 in the class of a couple hundred. And now I understand why. So I was a very good student, so I took good notes and I could regurgitate things very well, what the teacher said. To be a good lawyer and to be a good law student, you have to develop the muscle of critical thinking. So I would strongly encourage people to do an undergrad, to explore, to expand, to try different things. And if you want to go into, especially the field of law, where it's never black and white, it's always shades of gray, but to see the nuances of gray, you need to have had some experience. So I would encourage, especially the younger students, to take your time, do the background. There's no rush.